Today I'm going to talk about my favorite game mechanism in the Palace of Mad King Ludwig. This is the sequel to my favorite game, The Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and I had the pleasure of playing it with the designer and publisher Ted Alspach at Gen Con a few days ago, which was one of the highlights of my year, much less my convention. It was awesome. This game hasn't come out yet, but it's being printed right now, so it'll be out within a month or so. And the game has a really unique feel to it because it feels like castles in many ways. There are familiar icons and mechanisms in it, but instead of building your own castle, you are collectively building a palace. And so there are a lot of interesting interactions that go into that, especially since you are still trying to complete the rooms that you build, whether you complete them or whether another player completes them. And you keep track of the rooms that you built by putting a little token identified specifically with you on the rooms that you build, all of which are square in this game instead of the zany shapes in castles. A lot of mechanisms in the game. I'm not going to go into all that. I'm going to go into my favorite mechanism, which are connection points. So in Palace, every square tile has one or more connection points, doorways, that have a specific colored swan on it. With the idea being that if you connect two doorways that have the same swan color, or any swan color plus a generic swan, there's a generic icon, then you get that swan. You get a little swan token. And kind of similar to the expansions of castles, or the expansion of castles, these swans, they can be worth points at the end of the game. They are the currency of the game. There is no money. You are spending swans in the game, so they're the main currency. So they're always a good thing to get. But the reason I really, really like this mechanism, especially on my first play of a game, and I think the first play of a game is really, really important, is that there are a lot of choices in the game. You always have, I think it was 6 different tiles that you could build. They're in a tableau or a river, a tile river that you can build from. And there's some other actions. I think there's a total of like really kind of 10 different things you could do. Build 6 tiles, or there are 4 different other actions that you can do. And so lots of choices. And if you do choose one of those 6 tiles to build, you have to choose where to put it. And there are lots of different decisions that go into that. Do you try to complete one of your rooms? Do you put it in a specific space that you think might be good for you later? Do you close off someone else's room so they can't complete it? Or do you help someone complete a room for whatever reason you have to help somebody else? But the connection points, this matching mechanism, amidst all of those decision points, if you just need something to hold on to and something to aim for, you can aim for a connection point. So I did this a lot in my first game. I was overwhelmed at times with the decisions because there were so many interesting decisions to make. And so I would just say, okay, I see this tile that I know will be good for me, and instead of puzzling over the myriad of places where I could put it, I know that it's good for me because it has a blue swan connection point on it, and I have an open blue swan connection point already in the palace. I will buy that tile or take it for free, somewhere free, and I will put it there. And it made my turns pretty short and easy. I was able to plan ahead for my turns, and I was able to execute them quickly and in a satisfying way because I was making this connection point and getting more swans. I did end up winning the game, which may have factored into why this mechanism felt good for me, but I think it's a valid mechanism in the game regardless, and I think it's a valid mechanism in any game where you are pairing things together where there's a big decision space. If you have something simple like this, whether it's a connection point or some other icon that you're matching with one card over the other, I think it helps players distill that sheer amount of information and at least make a decision, even as they're stumbling through the game a little bit, as I was in my first play of Palace. So I really, really love this mechanism. If you can think of a parallel mechanism in another game that uses connection points, whether it's a tile game or any game where you have a lot of decisions and a little simple matching mechanism basically makes it easier for you to make those decisions, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Or if you've had the good fortune like me to actually have played Palace to date. I'd love to hear your thoughts on mechanisms in that game that you enjoyed as well. Thanks.